guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Jen Gidetti. For those of you who are new here, I live with my husband Michael and my 5-month-old daughter Esther. Today I wanted to jump on and do a like how to prepare for your birth and labor. So basically when I was pregnant, I had a birth plan. I had all of my ideologies basically of what I would want, like what my birth would look like. And there's a couple of things I just want to like draw out and bring to your attention. So for any mums who are expecting, you know, gonna go into labor soon, need to do their birth plan, need to get some ideas and also understanding of what can actually happen. So basically my birth plan was the usual, I feel like, in that I didn't want medication. I wanted to labor naturally at home for as long as possible. I wanted to not have an episiotomy. Sorry, my phone just went off. Okay, so where I was no episiotomy. I wanted to just tear naturally. I believe in the natural process and your body will obviously tear where it's supposed to. And episiotomy is great. Don't get me wrong. I'm not against them, but that's just was my personal preference going into it. So basically, my waters broke at home. You guys know the story. The story is a few videos back. If you want to go, we had a sit down chat. Michael and I literally so freshly postpartum about the whole birth and labor experience. So my waters broke at home, which automatically means the hospital puts you on a clock. So I rang the hospital. I let them know, hey, my waters are broken, contractions have started. And basically, like, they said, come in, we need to confirm that your waters have broken. So I was like, yeah, fine. I even said to Michael, I was like, don't put the bags in the car because we're not actually going to stay. Like, I want to come home and labor. Because they give you like 24 hours for contractions to start, although my contractions had started. So that was fine. But probably the biggest factor in all of this was the fact that my contractions were so close together from the very beginning. So, which I'll get to it later, but it should have been a very red flag for a certain midwife. But anyway, we arrived at the hospital after I had a shower, labored at home for maybe 2 hours. And at this point we had decided to pack the bags into the car because my contractions were between a minute and 2 minutes apart at this point. Pretty much from the start, from the get-go of labor, my contractions were 1 to 2 minutes apart, which had me a bit concerned because I had heard, you know, 15 minutes, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, head to the hospital when they're, you know, 3 minutes apart, whatever. And mine were literally like birthing, like time apart. So I was like, this baby's coming. That was me in my head. And then we obviously arrived at the hospital and we went into the maternity assessment clinic. And at this point I was handling labor like a pro. Like, seriously, it was cruisy at this point. And then you guys know Esther went Brady. So first and foremost, if your baby has an episode in the hospital that shows that there could be some signs of distress, even if you recover fully, they will keep you for monitoring. So be mindful of that. You can decline. However, I was not going to decline. I was like, I seen the heart rate drop and I was like, holy cow, like this is so bad. And then it recovered perfectly fine. And obviously I birthed her properly, like vaginally, not properly. It would have been fine if I had had a C-section. To me, that is just as much of a birth as a vaginal birth. So yeah, she went bratty. And then I literally had like a emergency like met call and a bunch of people ran in, or a bunch of doctors and midwives, and they flipped me around in a couple of positions, and it dwindled down to she'd crushed her core. But because that episode had happened, I had to be basically admitted and monitored. So they put me on the Toco monitoring, which I could not labor properly because they were coming in every 5 minutes, checking the monitoring, readjusting it. So there was that. Secondly, they had cannulated or tried to cannulate. They actually didn't get a cannula in. Maybe like, I'm going to say 14 times. So about 7 times per arm, which was just negligence, pure negligence. And I just want to prepare you guys, like, you can say no to this stuff. And obviously at the time, Michael and I, we were like, I don't know, just trusting them. But at the same time, Michael said if he could go back, he would be like, you guys need to stop, because it was wild the amount of times they attempted to cannulate. And her heart rate had recovered, so it wasn't like I was being rushed off for an emergency Caesar. Getting to that. So they made me consent for an emergency Caesar without basically like gowning up. So it was a very, very, very quick situation. Like, basically, if the baby had to be out then and there because of her heart rate. So obviously I'm not going to do anything to jeopardize my baby. So I was like, yeah, like if it's got to be done, it has to be done. Like, I'm not opposed to it, but I do want a vaginal birth. So that is how quickly, first of all, I want to draw out how things can change. And I don't want to say luckily, I'm thankful that my birth didn't end in a cesarean. I was able to go on and birth her naturally, or vaginally. They're both natural ways to have a baby. But basically then at this point, I'd been in the hospital for maybe like 2 hours. So in labor, 4 hours all up. My whole entire labor, including birth, was 11 hours. So I went on to labor, and I labored for, I think, maybe about 6 hours in the shower, which brings us to about 10 hours. And I called my midwife so many times. I said to her, like, I was looking for support. They still had me in the assessment clinic. I hadn't even gone to birth suite. And yeah, so I called her in, and I was like, basically telling her that I was in excruciating pain. So this is around the 5 to 6 hour mark of my labor. And she goes, okay, I'll check you. And so she checked me. She's like, oh, you're only at a 4. Like, so disappointed. And I was like, how dare you? Like, you have just literally like made me doubt myself. So at this point I was like, if I'm only at a 4 and this is your attitude, I want an epidural. I want the gas. Like, get me everything, because I can't handle this pain. So she goes off, gets the gas, gets the epidural. So the one thing that you really need to be prepared for labor is a good support team, and make sure that that team knows exactly what you want, because they need to advocate for you. And unfortunately at this stage, my student midwife wasn't there, so she couldn't advocate for me, and it was just Michael. And when you're in labor, you tend to beg for things even if you don't want them. So in my mind, I was like, you don't want this epidural, you don't want this gas, but my labor, I was crying. I said to Michael, I need it. Like, you need to tell her, like, get it for me. So anyway, she organized the gas, brought it into the room, and I found that digging the actual tube into my head helped more than breathing it in. So I had the gas, but I was just using it on my body or biting it. I was not really breathing it in. I did a couple times and it made me really nauseous. So there was that. And then I said to her, if you need to get the epidural, because this was the only way I could get into birth suite. And I was clutching at straws. I'm like, I need to go to birth suite. Like, get me the epidural so I can go to birth suite. So they give you the epidural in birth suite. That's why. So you have to be in birth suite, because obviously that's where you're going to birth the baby. And if you have the epidural, you can't walk. So I got into birth suite, And I sat on the edge of the bed and I looked at Michael. They were like prepping me for the epidural. They put in, no, they did. I think they put in an anesthetic. Yeah, so they put in like an anesthetic, but not the epidural, to numb the area where they were going to give the epidural. And my anaesthetist walked off to get like his equipment, and I grabbed Michael. And at this point, obviously, I have full function of my body because the epidural hadn't been administered. And I said to him, we need to leave. Basically, I said, these people aren't helping me. We need to leave. And the midwife in charge, she looked at me and she was like, Jen, do you think you need to push? And I was like, I don't even know what that feels like. Like, she's like, lay back, I need to check you. So I lay back, she checked me, and I was 10, ready to push. So the next thing I want to bring out to you guys is, 1, you want to have your strong support team. 2, you want to make sure that someone is there to remind you that when you are in that excruciating pain where you're like, something's going on here, something's not right, we need to leave, like this is intense, and you're begging for that pain relief, push through, because that is called transition. And the first midwife did not pick up on it, and she ordered the freaking epidural. And if I had have had that administered, it would have been literally, I would have been worse off. Like, it would have slowed down the birth. I probably would have ended up with like assistance in delivery. So I'm really mad about that midwife. I have to tell you, like, she rubbed me the wrong way. And so, yeah, number 1, your support team, make sure they know exactly what you want. And even if you are begging for it, have a conversation when you are in labor. So get your birth partner or your birth support team to say to you, are you actually wanting this? Is this a decision that you're going to regret later? Think about it. Like, I know you're begging for it, but you told me you didn't want it. Try and get them to come to the reasoning in their mind. Like, yeah, I don't want this. I'm begging for it because I'm in pain. Because I wish that is what happened to me. Whereas, like, Michael was like, obviously he didn't know any better. And yeah, so I'm so thankful that the epidural didn't get administered, because things could have just really gone different from there, but they didn't. And I was really thankful for that. So that midwife who was in charge, straight on the ball. And I'm so thankful for her, because like, otherwise I would have ended up literally freaking numb from the waist down, trying to push out my baby with literally not being able to feel anything. And in hindsight, being able to feel it, the contraction pain went away. So it was more like you had to hold it internally and just get all the energy down. And that was incredible to me. That pushing was a relief. It made the contractions feel like nothing, because I don't know, you're putting the energy into something. And I just love that. So not only that, I was able to feel the ring of fire, so I could hold back when they needed me to hold back to help stretch and etc. But number 2, you need to make sure that if you're going through that pain at that time, just ask yourself the question, okay, do you think that you could be close? Because I was at a 4 centimeter and I went to a 10 in 10 minutes. So 10 minutes it took me, and then 20 minutes to birth my baby thereafter. So number 1, support team. Number 2, make sure you remind yourself that even though I'm in this much pain, there's probably a transition happening. Yeah? I want to get this across to you guys, because this is something I wish people told me. And then, yeah, so basically, when you have your birth plan, know that it can change. Have a good support team. Know that you could be transitioning when you're going through that excruciating pain. And yeah, just go with your contractions. Do what feels comfortable for you. I loved birthing on my back, and I hear so many stories about people not liking birthing on their back, but I loved birthing on my back. I could hold my knees up, and I just found that to be really helpful. And then bearing down, like, I don't know, I've only given birth once, so in the future it could probably be very, very different. Like, I might want to stand up and give birth, I might want to do whatever, but yeah. So also in the future, I would probably labor at home. I would say no to the cannulas, stop it, unless my baby goes absolutely berserk. Then get me to theatre, let the anaesthetist cannulate, okay? Don't do it, because there was actually no need for it. In the end, I was cannulated 14 times, and obviously my veins were not, you know, they were collapsing. But yeah, like, there was actually no need for it in the end anyway. So that, just know that you can say no to things that aren't quite necessary at that point. The other thing I would do is labor at home longer. Trust your body. You will know when transitioning is coming. Trust me, you will know. And then, like, the other thing is, I wanted to be in a birth pool. I wanted to have all of that, and I couldn't get that because I literally was 4 centimeters, and the criteria to be in birth suite was 5. I was 4, the criteria is 5. So I wasn't allowed to go get in the bath, which I probably would have had a water birth. Like, how beautiful that would have been for me if she hadn't just advocated for me to go into birth suite, because my contractions were a minute apart, and I was telling her, this is not right. Like, I'm not in, like, I felt the urge to bear down in the shower in the assessment clinic. Like, I was feeling like I was needing to push. And obviously with every contraction, the baby's coming lower and lower. So of course I was feeling those urges in there. But I didn't feel those urges in birth suite. I had no idea I was 10 centimeters. Oh, looking back now, yeah, it was like, hello. I was literally asking to leave because they weren't doing anything. And that's how the midwife clicked. But I know this sounds like a kind of like a taboo video, but I just wanted to bring out some experiences that I had that you guys can just take and apply to your own as well. And you know what? Even if you do have a cesarean, you can ask for straight away skin on skin. They don't need to whip your baby off, unless obviously there is an issue there. But there's no reason they can't drop the curtain, you bring your baby up, you know? Like, these are things you can ask for. So also remember that cesarean section or a vaginal birth, both beautiful ways of bringing your baby into the world. You do have control over things that you can ask for. Also, there is some studies around birthing your baby and the membranes inside of your vagina actually does something to their head, or I don't know. Look it up though. There's a study around some people who get some swabs and actually apply it to their baby's head for some unknown reason. But you should check that out. I haven't done much research into it, but I have heard about it. So look into that. If you're into that kind of thing. I wasn't. So if I had to have a cesarean section, the one thing I would have asked for is bubs to be up on me straight away. But I don't think it would have, I would have been under a general for my cesarean, because we wouldn't have had time to sit there and get a spinal block. It was needed to happen now. So, but it didn't in the end, you know? So like, I could have had that beautiful moment, but you trust the hospital, you trust your healthcare team, but make sure that you have a good foundation in your birth team. So your husband, your friend, your videographer, your photographer, your mum, your sister, your auntie, whoever you have there, make sure they know what you want, because it is so important at the end of the day for your birth to go the way you want it plan for a cesarean as well and how you would want that to go. Because, yeah, you can have instrumental deliveries, but still have a very beautiful delivery as well. But the reason I say plan for vaginal and cesarean is because you never know how quickly that can change. So that's the last thing I want to bring out to you guys is plan for that cesarean section and how you want it to go. And yeah, like I said, you can have skin on skin. You can have that. You just need to advocate for it and say, no, this is what I want. Hospitals will push back, but you do the research. Make sure you go in there with good knowledge. You can have your skin on skin. And I just think that's so beautiful. So I'm going to wrap this video up here, but I hope this helps you guys write your birth plan or brings out some things that went wrong for me that could go wrong for you, that might not go wrong for you. But the last thing I want to say to you is if you are delivering vaginally and you are in excruciating pain and you're thinking, this is it, I can't go on, I need that pain relief. If you are someone that doesn't want a medicated birth, I just want to say to you, hold on, because you are so close. You are so close to the end of the birth or the labor and beginning to birth your baby. And when you have somewhere to put those contractions, they change immensely. So that's the last thing I want to bring out to you guys. But I hope you enjoyed this video. Please don't forget to like and subscribe for future videos about babies. I'm not pregnant and I won't be for a while yet, but there will be more videos coming. And yes, I hope you guys enjoyed it and I will see you later on.